chance to speak with you tonight. It's always good to worship with you and to have the chance to stand here and talk with you about this text as a gift as well. From Matthew chapter 4. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. A few years ago, someone in New York got the number of one of our credit cards and spent a few $1,000s in stores I'd never heard of on stuff I'd never used. He also got my Social Security number, filed a false tax return, and pocketed a nice refund.
My goodness.
I was a victim of what we call identity theft. Though really, he'd just stolen my financial persona. He left the rest of it with me. Appalachian roots in a family only a generation out of coal country. Georgia childhood on the south side, the redneck side, the blue-collar side of Atlanta. Pentecostal and Baptist religious heritage, white, male, son, brother, husband, father, pastor, striver, introvert, and Enneagram 9. He left all of it with me.
That much.
And some of it I would have given freely. He would have It was almost 2 years before the IRS believed I was who I said I was. It seemed like a long time, but on the other hand, I've had far longer stretches of time when I wasn't entirely sure about who I was. Then, Matthew tells us, and then, as Nancy and the children have so delightfully shown us, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Then was after his baptism, when his cousin John plunged him into the Jordan River and raised him up again. Water dripping from his hair and his beard, Jesus saw the heavens open, felt the feathery touch of the Holy Spirit, and heard God's voice say, "This one is my son, I love him. I am so pleased with him." The vision, the touch, and the voice clarified and confirmed for Jesus his growing sense of identity. Baptism told him who he was and who he was becoming, God's beloved child. Then, the temptation. The challenge Jesus faced was not to forget, not to forfeit, not to let evil steal his identity. The devil wanted to confuse him about what it meant to belong to God, to live in the energy of God's delight, and to rest in God's love. So the evil one tried to plant doubts and conjure distractions in Jesus' mind and heart. If. you are God's beloved. By the way, it's entirely possible if we'd been in the wilderness with Jesus, we'd have seen or heard nothing of what Matthew reports. Not because it didn't happen, but because it happened where most of these things happen. In disturbing dreams, liminal visions, contemplative awareness, the charged imagination, prayerful probing of the depths. And by the way, again, if you need somebody to say this, I will. To take the imagery of Satan, devil, adversary, tempter, accuser, liar, Beelzebul seriously, you'd best not take it literally. The writers of the New Testament didn't take it literally either, because evil is far too personal, far too real, far too subtle for literalism. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, Paul said, but against principalities and powers. So Satan embodies that inescapable truth that negation, deception, and accusation are always bearing down on us. Then, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He was famished, fatigued, and vulnerable. Vulnerable. When the devil appeared to him and said, "If you are in fact the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." And Jesus answered with words he drew from the Hebrew Scriptures, from Deuteronomy 8. "One does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." And of course, Jesus did not say, one does not live by bread at all. Bread alone was what Jesus rejected. He told us plainly, when we feed the hungry, we're feeding him. Bread's not the issue. He told us to pray for our daily bread. And later, he would feed thousands in a wilderness very much like this one he's being tempted in, and perform the kind of miracle the devil wanted him to perform, but only for himself. Jesus underscored that we can't survive without bread, but we can't thrive either on bread alone. In The Need for Roots, published in 1943, the year she died, Simone Weil said that a culture does not honor our essential humanity unless it takes account those needs which are for the life of the soul, what food, sleep, and warmth are for the life of the body. And among those needs for the life of the soul, she named freedom, equality, and truth-seeking. Surely we can add wonder, beauty, love, and joy. The poet Lucy Shaw ran across a journal by a prairie woman, an anonymous prairie woman from the 1870s. And there was an entry about her handcrafting quilts. She said, "I make them warm to keep my hands from freezing. I make them beautiful to keep my heart from breaking." Bread alone is never enough. The tempter launched another attack on Jesus' sense of self. That's a little bit like what I'm going to say in a minute. He took him to Jerusalem, placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, "If you're the Son of God, throw yourself down from here." The adversary offers a proof text this time for what he wants Jesus to do. It's from Psalm 91. It is written, "He will command his angels concerning you to protect you. On their hands they will bear you up so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Do something spectacular, Jesus. Something that will force God to prove for all to see and for you to be sure how much God loves you. Back God into a corner. Shouldn't God's child be able to count on a little special protection? Use the institution as a platform for your own self-promotion, as a stage for your ego's performance. Throw yourself down. Now, when I was pastor at First Baptist Church downtown, I never wanted to climb the dome and the cupola and jump off. But there were plenty of Sundays when I did the minor equivalent, standing up to say more than I knew, kind of leaping into the known unknown, and hoping God would protect me and them. Jesus refused. Reaching again into the wisdom of Deuteronomy, it said, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Then the tempter took Jesus up on a high mountain and pointed to all the vast kingdoms of the world. Then I think he put an arm around Jesus' shoulder and offered a sly bargain. All these I will give to you if you'll fall down and worship me. If this is what you want, power and position and prestige, I can deliver them to you. I won't get in your way. I won't make things hard for you. All you have to do to have control of all this is give me control of you. And despite those glittering images before his eyes, Jesus remained true to his prior commitment, not to the kingdoms of this world, but to the commonwealth of God. There wasn't a payoff or pleasure or position for which Jesus would sell his soul. He resisted the art of being. Once again, he countered the devil with wisdom from the Bible. Worship the Lord your God. Serve only him. Now, in one way, of course, these temptations of Jesus were uniquely his, tailored to his temperament, suited to his circumstances, proportional to his own possibilities, aimed at his particular psyche. I think only he could be tempted precisely in these ways. But in other ways, though, these temptations are ours, or they are like ours, because there are forces all around us and voices within us which seek to shake our confidence in God's love for us, to confuse us about our identity as God's children. They want to sow doubts about our baptism. They're hell-bent on confusing us about who God is and who we are. They want to shrink our awareness by inflating our fears. To get us to live for short-term comfort rather than long-term character, to make life easier instead of better, and to live recklessly rather than courageously. And temptation exploits our anxieties over the ways we are dependent. When it comes to bread, to food, for instance, we're at the mercy, actually at the grace of seed, soil, sun, and rain, farmers and granaries, bakers and merchants. When it comes to shelter, most of us need others to build and maintain it for us. Architects and designers, carpenters, masons, roofers, electricians, plumbers, and other tradespeople that I'm too ignorant about construction even to name. And such dependency extends to everything we need to survive and thrive in life. We need a network, a neighborhood of people, some of whose names we'll never know. Temptation wants us to ignore how dependent we actually are. To believe that we're not hemmed in by limits, to accept an illusion of autonomy. Because if we believe the lie that we are self-made, that we can get by without a little help from our friends, then we're also able to treat people as things to manipulate because we don't need them after all. We can use them as a means to our own end and as servants of our ego's project. Exaggerated autonomy makes us insist on being left alone until we're afraid that we've been left alone. And temptation also shames us for our vulnerability. It scorns our wounds and weaknesses, urges us to hide our griefs and disappointments even from ourselves, scoffs at our search for significance, derides our dreams of living in a better world, a world we would join God and others to make, sneers at our longings to be truly known and fully loved. It mocks our dogged quest for meaning, our white-knuckled clinging to hope, and our tenacious but tenuous trust that all shall be well. Some of you know that for the last 3 years, I've lived with the limits, dependencies, and vulnerabilities of cancer. This experience is a crucible of testing. It raises questions of identity and meaning, to which despair seems in the hardest moments like a reasonable answer. There's gift here, though. I've had to surrender my illusions of autonomy and independence, to come to terms with diminished physical energy and capacity, and to relinquish a role which had been central to my vocation for more than 3 decades. Chemo brain and a kind of post-traumatic stress thing have occasionally caused my brain to feel like mush, left me disoriented, made it difficult for me to remember the names of people I know well. I put dirty socks in the recycle bin instead of the clothes hamper, and milk in the pantry instead of the refrigerator. And for somebody who had a kind of overweening confidence in the life of the mind, that sort of humbling has been important. From time to time, I've dealt with searing pain, and I've come twice to the edge of death. And still, I'm not any good, as I've never been any good at accepting limits. But now there are things I've always done which I can no longer reliably do. I know what it means to feel that the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. In ways I've not experienced since I was a child, I've had to learn to accept help. And not just to accept it, but to ask for it. Illness is teaching me what I've been clever enough, resourceful enough, and prideful enough to ignore. I'm not God. I'm not even an exceptional human being, since there are no exceptions, no exemptions from dependency, vulnerability, and limitation. More than anything else, I'm learning how crucial it is to remember. To remember not to let anything or anyone take from us the knowledge that we are who baptism says we are, beloved children of God. In the wilderness, Jesus remembered. John Claypool, recounted his story. At the end of World War I, the French army found itself in a difficult situation. Over 100,000 soldiers were suffering from amnesia because of shell shock and due to a faulty record system. Not even the army knew the identity of these soldiers. In every other way, they were healthy. And they could be returned to their families, but only if something might quicken the return of their memories. But how, they wondered, to get their identities triggered in their own minds? Well, someone came up with the idea of having an identification rally in Paris. It would be highly publicized throughout the country. Families with relatives missing in action would be encouraged to attend. The plan was adopted. The moment arrived. Thousands of people gathered in one of the great plazas of the city. A platform had been constructed in the center where all could see. And one by one, men stepped up to a microphone and looked out anxiously over the crowd saying, "Please, please, is there anyone here who can tell me who I am?" God can. When you're in the wilderness, remember, you are God's child. You can trust in God's mercy. You can count on God's grace. You can rest in God's love. Nothing, no one can take your identity away from you. You are God's daughter. You are God's son.